All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be breaking down the Rocket Classic, a tournament that's played at Detroit Golf Club, a Parkland-style course, a Donald Ross course. It's an event that I actually really like a decent amount. I'm actually going to start this video off with, well, a quick recap from the Travelers Championship. Then we're going to talk about the outright sweats that we've had at this tournament because it's been a very fun tournament in that regard. Also, a very tilting tournament in that regard as well. But it is a tournament that has led to a lot of predictability, as you guys will see. So it's an event that I'm pretty excited for. And for DFS and betting purposes, I think we are actually in a pretty darn good spot this week, especially compared to maybe the Travelers Championship last week where, it's that straightforward no-cut event strategy that we have to go with. Whereas this one, we're going to have to finagle a little bit, but it's a week where I'm pretty excited about the salaries that we're getting in DFS and some of the spots that we're getting for outrights. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so yeah, starting out with the recap from last week, guys, the Travelers Championship was definitely an interesting event. You saw Scotty Scheffler seem like he was going to really just dominate the course in the tournament after round one, and then he kind of blew up throughout the weekend. He was the first player to truly choke away the victory. And then some people are going to say Tommy Fleetwood choked away a victory, which he did. But also don't forget Russell Henley also choked away the victory as well. He gave himself a one-stroke penalty, self-assessed penalty on Friday, which obviously ended up costing him the win. And he is someone that on the final round on Sunday was not really making putts. Okay, he lost like a half a stroke putting, which if you give him his normal days on the green, he probably wins that tournament as well. But obviously, Tommy Fleetwood did end up choking that one away. But as I mentioned in the round 4 video, it was going to be a week in which we likely were to have another outright winner per the 9-to-5 data outright bets. So yes, Keegan Bradley ended up being the 11th best or 11th good outright bet that hit thus far this season. So you look at the statistical good outright bets that we have each and every week. Last week we did have a decent amount, but he ended up hitting, and if you bet on solely or only good outright bets throughout this whole season, you'd be up 62 units of profit on the season, which myself personally, I am really kicking myself for not doing. Last week, I ended up only betting on 4 golfers, which I think if I had done 7, I would have got to Tommy Fleetwood, and I would have got to Keegan Bradley, so I'm kind of kicking myself for that. That being said, I can't be mad about the data being correct. You guys can't be upset about the data being correct. And obviously, we would take a good year like that in general, and the data continues to hit. That actually makes 15 straight weeks now where a golfer with a good outright bet take, possible outright bet take, or long shot bet outright take has ended up winning. Now, last week's tournament did end up being unique because it was the second straight week in which, some of my best builds had a withdrawal. So not pictured in this is a tweet that I ended up putting out, was that Viktor Hovland ended up withdrawing. We saw Corey Connors withdraw from the U.S. Open, which was a player that we were all on a decent amount that week, and Viktor Hovland was obviously a player that everyone was on this week. So part of last week's video was me kind of griping a little bit about the U.S. Open and the rough. I thought personally playing a little bit unfair in the sense that not every player is going to get the same, similar light. You might get penalized more for just hitting the rough a foot away from someone, which is, not something that I like. I actually really love the way that the Travelers Championship course played, but I don't know, is there something there? It's either one of two things, guys. One, either the U.S. Open course rough was too thick, too dense, which actually ended up to players maybe exerting energy differently than they typically would, which led to some injuries for them. Jordan Spieth, Siwoo Kim, Eric Cole withdrew with the illness, so we're not putting him a part of that. But Corey Connors, Brian Campbell. Then we also saw, obviously, Viktor Hovland withdraw. We saw one other player ended up withdrawing as well. So was it part of the U.S. Open, conditions, or it probably is more this? Was it the signature event? The fact that it really, if you're not playing well, if you don't think you're going to win, doesn't really matter all too much if you ended up withdrawing. I don't know. To me, guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the signature events being after a major, like the week right after. I kind of get why it is that way for, players' purposes, but it just lacks, I don't want to say lacks the appeal, but I would rather it be spread out a little bit more because we're in the middle of the summer right now. 3 of the majors are already done. The Players Championship, one of the, best tournaments every single year, is already done. And now we have all the signature events. Now I know we still have the FedEx Cup playoffs coming. And to me, I like those more. But it is definitely interesting there. I do think that that's something that needs to be worked on with the PGA Tour. So one other thing I want to talk about before we really get into the picks is talking about Cameron Young. So a weird theme that has occurred thus far this season in the fantasy Twitter X community, if you will, is this bit around Cameron Young where people are betting on him every single week. Now, I hesitate to think that people are actually doing that. Okay, I do think it's a bit. I think people are just mostly joking around. As most of you guys probably know, I don't listen to really anyone else when it comes to the fantasy golf stuff. Really just focus on the data and what the data is telling us every single week. It's set up to do the work for us. I allow it to do that for us. But I do occasionally see on X and whatnot this hype around Cameron Young. And I do think that it's mostly a bet. I did mention last week, though, that maybe potentially Cameron Young could be a good outright bet this week, depending on whether or not he had a good week last week. He did for half of it, and the other half he was terrible. But I do want to just kind of go through this thread that I put out on my X9to5Golf Twitter account as well X account and just kind of talk through it. Okay, so what we're going to notice here, guys, is that Cameron Young this week does not have an outright tag. So I just mentioned already that thus far this season, guys, we have had, 15 straight golfers that have been winners on the PGA Tour that have had some sort of outright tag, whether that be a good outright bet, possible outright bet, or long shot bet. And obviously 11 of the winners have been good outright bets. He does not have that tag. So for him to be someone that we're going out of our way to bet, not a good choice. That being said, as we get into this week, what you guys will see is he is definitely unique in this regard for this week. He could be an outlier in the data. That could happen. That does happen, somewhat. He's the 5th best in recent form this week. He's had really good results out of this tournament as well, a 6th and a second place finish. And on top of that, guys, he is someone that does have local ties as well. So all that bodes well for him. But the fact that this bit has carried on for as long as it has by a lot of people is definitely surprising to me. I get that it can be fun, but for a golfer to not really have that many chances of winning and for the bit to continue as long as it has, it's a little bit strange to me, right? Now, that being said, even though on paper, he's not a good outright bet and probably not someone I'm going to get to personally because the odds are pretty trash, I will say this week, I wouldn't blame anyone, especially if they are someone that has enjoyed being part of that bit. They've been someone that's, probably not betting on him, but, kind of stocking the flames of that narrative. And in that regard, I could see getting on him as an outright bet, but just know it's risky. And it has been risky. He hasn't been considered a good outright bet over the past year. I think it's been very rare in which he's been maybe a possible or long shot bet. He just hasn't been playing well. It does seem like the tides are turning for him, but I did want to start with that. I do think it's an interesting thing to talk about because it is a fun piece of the tournament this week, because I would love to see Cameron Young win. It would be fun. And it wouldn't be like Ricky winning a few years ago, which brings up the last portion of the preview part of this video, the fluff portion of this video, if you will. And let's just look at the past winners, because Ricky Fowler was one of those winners as well. But this tournament has been tilting for one player and one player only, Cameron Davis. I don't hate any golfer, really. I don't. But I do have, if I had to choose a player that I hate, it would be Cameron Davis. I think anyone that has followed my content over the years gets why. It goes back to the 2021, still tilting 2021 Rocket Mortgage Classic, where he ends up beating Joaquin Niemann and Troy Merritt in a playoff. Okay, I had 2 out of the 3 golfers in the playoff, and they both lost to Cameron Davis, who the only reason why he was in the playoff was because he chipped in for eagle from a bunker. A very unlikely shot, a very tilting one. And I think that week I actually ended up getting Troy Merritt at 140 to 1 before his odds came down. Troy Merritt actually brings up an interesting point. You look at someone like Harry Hall this week, guys, very similar. And I think that's worth calling out. We'll talk about Harry Hall in a little bit here, but very similar in terms of their play. That I think that will show you guys just how good Vegas has actually gotten with their fantasy golf odds throughout the years. That's not too long ago, 4 years ago. And they're pretty similar. Whereas Troy Merritt, who was a clear-cut kind of value, we were getting those types of bets consistently 4 years ago at 100 to 1, really good odds. And now I think, again, I'll talk about Harry Hall in a little bit. I think it's 30 to 1. Again, very similar on paper. But yeah, that was tilting. You look at 2024 as well. 2024, we had 2 good outright bets. This is when I started to shift towards more just focusing on what the data is telling us to bet on. We had Aaron Rai and Davis Thompson. We had 3 good outright bets. 2 of them ended up finishing minus 17 and losing by 1 stroke to Cameron Davis. So yeah, I don't like Cameron Davis, but let's continue on. So we'll show you guys this real quick. So yeah, it was It was Alex Noren as the other outright bet. Okay, so very annoying there. And yeah, I got Aaron Rai at 40-1 at the start of the week last year. But that brings us to Ricky Fowler, guys. This was, I hope, your guys' favorite outright win from 2023. This was an awesome win. This is a win in which it seemed like Ricky was going to win. And he finally got it done. He kind of did it in dramatic fashion as well. And the nice thing about Ricky Fowler that week as well, he was the top-ranked player in the 9-to-5 model that week, and he was somewhat priced that way as well. Don't get me wrong; the odds were reflecting that as well. This came off of actually probably my best take ever in like sports, given the time in which I had kind of predicted it, where it was like a year before, where I predicted Ricky Fowler would be in the final round of a major, he'd be in the final grouping of a major on Sunday, which obviously ended up happening. He ended up losing to Wyndham Clark in that U.S. Open as well at LA Country Club. But my first prediction, like before that, was saying that Ricky Fowler would win. I didn't think that was bold enough, so I want to make it a little bit more bold. I said Ricky would be in the final pairing, the final group on a Sunday at a major, which I wish I could have bet on that. I wish. I bet that would have been massive odds. Anyways, Ricky was checking all the boxes. It seemed like he was going to win, and he did it. And so there's a lot of predictability there still. And then we go ahead and get into 2022. Another kind of tilting issue there. I realize I have a little typo there. Anyways, we had three golfers finish runner-up to freaking Tony Finau. That was Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, and then Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith that week was 60-1. That would have been a very fun hit. Okay, so a little bit annoying there. Then we go down a little bit lower, guys. Bryson was one of the best players in the field that week. He won. He was at short odds. And then really the most fun part of this tournament was honestly the 2019 Nate Lashley one, where, again, we haven't really seen this happen, where Nate Lashley was one of the best golfers in the field in 2019. He ended up making the tournament as an alternate. He was like the 7th alternate. Ended up making the tournament. So, a lot of us at the time were scrambling to get him into our models and whatnot. And he was like the 6th or 5th best golfer in the model. Now I don't believe we could play him in DFS that week, but it was like one of those ones where outright wise, you could get to him as well. Now it was a little bit before I was focusing on like betting and whatnot, pre-2020 pretty much, pre-COVID. But it was one that like, I feel like everyone knew to be on. Just it was a rare moment, but it was a pretty fun moment. He dominated. He was just hitting the ball extremely well, playing extremely good golf as well. We haven't really seen that in quite some time. So very fun to recap that. But I do think that does set the tone for this week, okay? We have seen some predictable results at this tournament, okay? Now, it is a tournament in which we do know what to expect. We have seen it for quite some time, so we know exactly which key stats to look at. We have enough golfers with enough course history, and we're far enough into the season where we do know which golfers to be looking at in terms of which golfers are in good form. That all bodes well for us, and I do think that leads to some of the predictability that we've had at this tournament as well. So we are going to go ahead and just get into the course history for this event, guys. And Cameron Young, with his 2 starts at this event, best course history. You could also toss in Cameron Davis, where he's won twice. Obviously, that's very good. Taylor Moore is going to be an interesting click. He is someone that, 3 straight top 10 finishes at this tournament. Obviously, we like that there with him. Chris Kirk is an interesting click at his number. Max Homa, he's a golfer that on courses where if someone just needed to hit it straight on, I do think it does benefit him a little bit, and maybe he's someone we could look at. Keegan Bradley, 3 straight made cuts at this tournament over the last 4 years, so like that there from him. Davis Thompson, interesting GPP play. Ben Griffin does have good course experience, guys, here, 31st and 33rd. He's an interesting click. And then from there, we start to get to some mixed results for some golfers in there as well. So that's where it does get a little bit concerning, is that there is a drop-off that we hit where not that many golfers have good course history. But for the most part, we do have a decent amount of golfers that do have good course history. So I mentioned we have seen this tournament a bunch. We do know which key stats to be looking at, and they're pretty straightforward, guys. It's going to be a total driving and ball striking course. We know that both long and accurate is what you need here. You also do need strokes gained approach, okay? It's just one of those courses where you do need to just be setting yourself up for opportunities, and if you're doing that, you're going to be boarding well. We're looking at par 5 scoring as well. We're looking at birdie or better percentage as well. Now, Kevin, you guys, I believe he has actually withdrawn from this tournament. I need to double check that. I think I saw that right before I started to record. If he has, obviously don't include him into the mix, but the nice part about this week is that you have someone like Alex Smalley, who I think we're going to be on. Very cheap. Keith Mitchell is going to be someone I think first-round leader-wise we could potentially look at there as well. We'll see if he's popping up as a good first-round leader bet with the AMT time. Patrick Cantlay, who's basically the best play on the board this week. He's a good staff it. Oleson as well, who's been an interesting player. You got Victor Perez, Ben Griffin, Kevin Roy is an interesting play. Stephen Fisk. We have a lot of good stat fits, so that is encouraging to me there as well. While we're at it, let's just take a peek at the golfers that are in the that are the best specialists as well. Again, those golfers that are, good in these unique course characteristics. So easier scoring event, Parkland style course, Donald Ross type of course. Okay, we like that. Not that many water hazards in play. Thick rough, typically speaking. Normal fairways, normal rough amount, fast greens though typically, and small greens, bent greens as well. So I actually do think that this is a week where we could be concentrating on that a little bit more, just with it being a Donald Ross course. You look at Pete Dye courses, you look at Donald Ross courses, typically speaking, they are a little bit more unique in the sense of which golfers you want to be targeting. And so we look at that. Colin Morikawa pops up, Patrick Cantlay, Keegan Bradley, Max Grayson, Ming Woolley, Luke Clanton's interesting. Okay, Taylor Moore's popping up in there again. Obviously, with him playing pretty well at this tournament, that does make sense. Akshay, Davis Thompson. So some of the players that I think will be on are at least popping up in there. Maybe we're getting a little bit of confirmation bias there. But now let's go ahead and jump on into the golfers with the best recent form. So it is interesting. We don't have Xander. We don't have Scotty. Some of the golfers that have the longest make cut streaks, ever on the PGA Tour. Two players that we can typically count on to make the cut at least. But we see Keegan Bradley, obviously 6 straight made cuts for him, multiple top 10 finishes mixed in there. The question is whether or not he's going to be good to go in this tournament with him coming in off of a win. I think he's fine. I do think there's a potential where we could get the Brendan Todd win back-to-back events. I could see that happen. This is still a good course for him. Ben Griffin as well, who's won twice already on the PGA Tour. I mean, Ben Griffin, guys, is he you have Rory and Scotty, easily the top 2 golfers in the world. Is he 3? Is he 3 right now? And I know a lot of people have been making a lot of talk about the Ryder Cup, and I'm not going to talk about that too much because I do think it's a little bit of wasted breath at this point of the season. I know it's coming up. I know the picks need to get in. We're about, I think, 50 days away from when the picks need to get in, but we're still 50 days away. We're still basically 2 months away from when the picks need to get in. Ben Griffin would obviously be a lock right now if it was starting right now. Harry Hall, for that matter, would probably be a lock to make it as well for the Euros, okay, because he's in such good form. But we're not there. We're still basically 2 months away. That form could fall off. We see that a bunch. But it is a fascinating topic of conversation. You look at something like Keegan Bradley as well. There's some people saying Tiger should be the captain and not Keegan. I don't think, as a USA fan, obviously, I don't like who wants Keegan playing in it. Right? He doesn't do well in these style of events, historically speaking. He's been terrible, actually. He's like the last player you would want in these type of events. Now, to be fair, if we go back far enough, you would say that's not true. And if we go back from the data that we have to look at, because we don't have stuff like the March Madness style tournament, obviously the match play tournament, where he's been terrible at, that's a few years removed now as well. So I think you could get a pass in that sense. But low-key, I'm kind of hoping that Keegan Bradley falls off here form-wise so that it's not a decision. So he'd be like, yeah, I'm not playing well. I'm not going to choose myself. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Because, again, we haven't seen him play well in these type of events, typically speaking, recently. And it's relatively recent. It's not like it's 2 years ago. But I'm curious as to where you guys come out on that thought. But he's in the best form. You got Ben Griffin, you got Harry Hall. Chris Goddard's interesting. Chris Goddard's actually someone that, if he's a little bit accurate this week, he could be someone we're looking at. Cameron Young, obviously. He did have 2 good rounds going last week and then finished terribly. Keith Mitchell's up there. Emiliano Grillo. You got Matt Fitzpatrick. So it does fall off here, guys. Siwoo Kim, I'm expecting Siwoo Kim to withdraw like he did last week. He'd be someone we could consider. Max Grayson, certainly interesting. He's one of those golfers where if he does end up winning, wouldn't be shocking. Just 9 straight make cuts, all pretty darn good starts. Good specialist. You would expect him to. Patrick Cantlay, he continues this roller coaster, guys. It's been very annoying with Patrick Cantlay, where it's basically been what we see. 12th, terrible. 12th, terrible. He had this weird stretch in here, but if you go back further, that's basically been his whole season where it's like one good event, one bad event. So I don't like the fact that we're getting Patrick Cantlay on a bad week, but I still think he's going to be fine. But the form is not as good as I would like it for a lot of these golfers, but it's not terrible. Like, we do have a lot of golfers that are on a pretty good made cut streak, which should, at the very least, lead to a little bit more predictability. But let's go ahead and speak on the predictability that we're going to have this week, guys. The way that we can do that is 2 ways. I want to show you guys the outright bets that we have. So we have, let's see here, 5 good outright bets on paper and probably 4. Again, I don't expect Siwoo Kim to play. Probably not going to bet on him. So we really have 4. And if you don't think Keegan Bradley is going to win this week after, obviously winning last week, where, typically speaking, we don't want to chase those type of golfers, we have 3 good outright bets, which is not terrible. Some weeks we haven't had that many, but let's take a peek at how many core plays that we have as well. So we'll take a peek. 3 core plays on paper. That's not bad. So typically speaking, the reason why I'm calling this out is this does lead to a little bit of the predictability that we have on a week. where some weeks we don't have any core plays, which really speaks to the volatility that we might have. So at least we do have 3 core plays. Now, the issue that we're going to have here, guys, is that these 3 golfers all priced up, right? They're the 3 best golfers in the field. So you don't like that there. And then we also do have to worry about Keegan Bradley, where again, he is coming in off of that victory. What do we do with that? But these 3 players are clearly the players that we should be starting our builds with. Now, the player that I probably want to start my build out with the most is Collin Morikawa. Collin Morikawa, not priced up too much to the point where you can fit him into our builds. I think he makes for a very good outright bet as well. 12-1. I'm kind of okay with that. Now, I will say some people were making fun of a market that was out there where it was winner without market. And guess who it was? The winner without market was all the good outright bets that we have minus Siwoo Kim. I'm like, that's actually not bad, right? Because chances are one of those 4 golfers are going to win. We have about a 20 to 25% chance that those golfers are going to win. I actually don't hate that. I don't hate that if the odds are not reduced too much. But yes, Collin Morikawa has been playing some great golf. It has somewhat felt like he was due for a win, but he's also kind of fallen off form-wise. So I don't know if we necessarily need to get there as much. Keegan Bradley, as I mentioned, Patrick Cantlay, very interesting, because he has been kind of hit or miss. We don't love that, but he has played this course well in the past. 2nd best specialist, 4th best staff. It's still 11th best form. Like, I don't mind that as well. But Ben Griffin, guys, I will say Ben Griffin is very tough for me not to love. Okay, Ben Griffin, Mr. Max Fly. He's playing that good quality golf ball, that good accurate golf ball. And we can get him at 22-1. Arguably, right now, the best golfer in the field, right? Best form over the last 5 starts, over the last 15, 7th best form over the last 4, over the last 10, 4th in the field. So really good there. Course history, not terrible, 21st in the field. But again, I like the fact that he has good course experience, 2 straight make cuts. Really before he was TikTok, Ben Griffin, where, the strokes gained social media, where it was Max Homa on X for a while. Once it changed to X, it kind of fell off there. That's where his form really started to miss. And then you look at something like Ben Griffin, who, since he started his TikTok career, he's really taken off. Kind of like Bryson on YouTube, where he's just gotten better with his social media career. I'm kind of teasing there. Give him a follow, guys. Give him a follow on TikTok. He does tournament previews. It's kind of fun. It's a fun thing. But honestly, I do wonder, do you guys think there's something psychological there at all, where maybe you are just it's part of going through the motions, it's part of going through your week, where you're just a little bit more mentally focused if you are putting out something on social media, where it's not taking up too much of your time, right? There is a point where, there's going to be diminishing returns. But I don't know. I think there could be something there, because obviously he's thinking about the tournament. He's investing in the tournament. If he's doing that, his mind's still in the tournament. I think there could be something there. But we look at his profile, it's obviously going to be good, guys. 8th best staff in the field. He ranks 2nd in total driving, 1st in strokes gained approach. Love that there. Top 10 in ball striking and top 15 in birdie or better percentage. So really good stuff from him. 12th best specialist, 22-1. He's one of my first clicks this week. Actually, I'm going to be doing probably 7. So I'm going to be betting on Cantlay. I'm going to be betting on Collin Morikawa. And then, Ben Griffin, I think, makes a ton of sense there as well. I think those are probably the starting points for betting cards. Now, if I had to create a slight concern for Ben Griffin, and this is cherry picking a little bit, it is the descending form. 1st, 2nd, 10th, and 14th. I don't really care about that though, right? Top 10 at a major 2 weeks ago, 14th last week. Like, we'll take that. And then, yes, guys, I do want to talk about Harry Hall a little bit more in depth, because this really does speak to the golf odds setters, how good they have gotten over the years. Because I do really think someone like Harry Hall in years past would have been someone that we would be getting, even last year, probably at 50-1. DFS wise, he'd be cheaper than this. Okay, but he's 3rd in form. He's in some of the best form. Last week, a top 10 place finish. Our core play for us last week as well, which ended up working out. 6th at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Just been playing some really good golf. 10 straight make cuts for him on the PGA Tour. Has course experience, and last year, 31st place finish, miscut in his first start here. That's okay. Key stat wise, does rank out 2nd in the field in birdie or better percentage. It kind of falls off after that, but he is something that makes sense. I do hate the pricing though. The pricing is what makes him a difficult click. The pricing is where I probably don't want to get to him, honestly, in DFS. We'll get to him a little bit in GPPs. Outright wise, I think you could think about maybe on BetMGM at 40-1. I do hate that that's where he's being priced. It's tough to get to him. For what it's worth, guys, I do think Cameron Young is going to be a good GPP only type play. So not someone you're playing for any safety. I do worry that, again, because of the Cameron Young bit is so hot and heavy right now, where it does feel like things could align this week. Like if you were going to bet on him, it would be this week. I think this would be the week you'd get to him. Now, I will say I did accidentally misspeak when I said he had course ties. You know, he's a New York guy, lives in Jupiter now. That's my bad there. And I do think that actually brings up an interesting point in general about this tournament. We aren't currently getting any golfers with local ties on DraftKings. That being said, we probably will, because they're probably going to add in James Piot. Is that how you say his name? Former live golfer who probably he took the money and then realized that was probably dumb, or I don't know. I didn't follow him on live. I don't really care. But he is a local guy. It is interesting, I think, there. You know, a golfer that had a lot of moxie, seemed like he could be eventually a star on the PGA Tour. That did not come to fruition, obviously. Gets a sponsor's exemption into this event. Just an interesting narrative there, I would say. Don't place a bet on him. Maybe you could do a live bet for fun. Goes back to the Cameron Young. If you guys are part of the fun better crew, or you're just looking for reasons to place fun bets, maybe you could get there with him. But I did think that was worth calling out. Kind of, again, a fun thing there to call out. And then the last high tier player I do want to call out again is going to be Max Grayserman. This is one where, again, I wish we were getting better odds. This is one where, honestly, if you can get the winner without market for him at 30 to 1, I would like that a little bit better, honestly. 40 to 1 just it feels too thin, okay, for a golfer that is the 31st best staff in the field. Now, he is in some good form. Okay, top 10 in form over his last 5 at 6 in the field. He is the 4th best specialist as well. Finished 31st at this event last year as well. It wouldn't be surprising to see him hit here. It just wouldn't. Okay, look at that. Look at his specialist stats. Really, really spectacular. Top 10 in a bunch of stats. 37th in course designer. That's the worst data point that we have coming in. So it does really bode well for him. The thing that I don't like, though, looking at his recent form, is no upside finishes. Okay, they've all been solid. The pricing, I think, is fair. I think you could get away with playing him in cash if you need to, like a shoulder shrug play for cash purposes. It is interesting, though. Look at Grayserman, seemingly a safer play on paper compared to Cameron Young, but Cameron Young, upside-wise, is a little bit undeniable there. Could come down to ownership there. I think we could see an ownership discrepancy here, and if that does end up occurring, maybe Max Grayserman, someone we could get to a little bit more. But now let's go ahead and get into those mid-tier plays, guys. We are getting some, I would say, okay spots here for the mid-tier, but really, there's one that I love, and that's going to be Alex Smalley. Alex Smalley, course last year, where he missed the cut. Okay, he's actually struggled at this event 2 out of the 3 years, and really all 3 years, where he finished 47th 2 years ago. That being said, he's the best stat fit in the field. Okay, best stat fit in the field. 11th in birdie better percentage, 8th in ball striking, 2nd in total driving, and 27th in that stroke gain approach. Recent form has been there for the most part as well. Missed the cut at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Don't like that. RBC Canadian Open 13th. PGA Championship made the cut, finished top 30. Myrtle Beach Classic 5th. Okay. I could potentially see getting to him as an outright bet. But again, I think it'd be better for the winner without market, depending on where that falls. If you can get him at 45 to 1, I think it'd be okay with that. I think at that point it'd be worth the risk. But he's not a good spot. He's just you're chasing him in GPPs for DFS purposes. You're chasing his upside because he's the best stat fit. That being said, maybe make some stupid mistakes, right? That could end up occurring. And I don't like the fact that he has terrible course history. So there is some concern there. But this whole range is risk reward. I don't mind the idea of getting to Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell probably makes the most sense, honestly, in this range, where he was a big letdown for us at the PGA Championship, missing the cut. But other than that, he's been playing some good golf. Bounced back at the Charles Schwab Challenge, played fine at the RBC Canadian Open. He's a golfer that is the 2nd best staff in the field, still in the 6th best recent form in the field as well. Didn't play well at this tournament last year, 75th, but he also is a golfer that did have that course experience last year. That's not a bad thing. I would rather bet on a golfer or be on a golfer that has course experience, even if it was a miscut, rather than a golfer that doesn't have course experience that would basically be the exact same play on paper as Keith Mitchell. So I'm fine getting Keith Mitchell. I like the price tag of Keith Mitchell there as well. But you guys see maybe the annoyance that we had this week. Ricky Fowler been a pretty darn consistent golfer. I think we'd be fine getting him as well. Tony Finau, obviously a former winner, 6 straight make cuts. You would these 3 golfers are all fine, but it's a lot of name value here over game value. Okay, that's what we're looking at with this range. Chris Goddard, I don't mind, but I think we're better off just going on into the next section, the low tier here, because that I think is the better route to go. So we look at something like Ryan Gerard, 6 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour. Although a lot of them have not been great, he is still a golfer that you would expect to make the cut at an event like this. He's basically top 40 or better in all the key stats that we're looking at this week, which across the board, I'll take that. I'll take a golfer that, metrics-wise, doesn't have anything glaringly bad. And To be fair, he doesn't really have anything glaringly good, but that's why we're getting him at such a cheap price tag. That's where I'm fine getting to him as well. The issue that you guys are seeing is I haven't put anyone into a build yet. That's kind of the issue that we have. I do think we are getting soft pricing, but we aren't going to get a lot of golfers that make you feel like you need to go out of your way to bet on them or really put them into your DFS lineups. That is a slight concern. Olison is definitely interesting, guys. Good stat fit, third best in the field. Wouldn't mind him, but let's continue on. The play that I do like the most, had he been in a little bit better form, would be Taylor Moore. Okay, but we've got to look at it a little bit. He did play fine at the Myrtle Beach Classic. Top 10 at the PGA Championship, so a little bit strange there, I will say. And 2 straight terrible weeks in a row. This is the definition of a GPP only play. This is a golfer where you could bet on him outright to win and then not have much exposure to him in DFS lineups. Like, it's a very strange click. You could bet on him to win. You could also bet on him to miss the cut. That's the range of outcomes for him. Course history's there. Finished top 10 at this event last year, 4th, and then 6th. So obviously really good stuff there from him. We have seen him randomly pop up. Overall, he's the 7th best specialist in the field, right? Like, this is a course that obviously suits his game well. I don't know what to do with Taylor Moore. If you guys have more conviction on him than I do, let me know. Because right now I think I probably will be on him outright wise. And that might be it, which is typically something I never tell people to do. Like, if a golfer is a good golf play, whether it be for PGA DFS, whether it be for betting, that typically correlates pretty well. But again, like, after the top few golfers that we have, especially outright wise, especially if you're doing the winner without market, it does lead to you chasing more longer odd bets. And that's where Taylor Moore does get interesting because of that course history. But we get a little bit lower, guys. We do have Emiliano Grillo, who, form-wise, 4 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour. Played this tournament 4 years ago, missed a cut. Oh, well. Stat fit, top 25 stat fit, we'll take that. Okay, we look at the form. Top 20 at the U.S. Open, then 24th at the RBC Canadian Open, 16th at the Charles Schwab Challenge, top 20 at the Myrtle Beach Classic. If we go back further, we know he probably should have won that event already this year. Grillo, no, I'm thinking of Joel Damon there. Apologies. But Grillo is someone that obviously has been playing some good golf over his past 4 starts, and really over his past 7 starts. We see one bad start mixed in there, which is the CJ Cup at Byron Nelson. You take that out, and we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 25 place finishes, which at this price tag is something I would certainly take. So I like the fact that he's a good staff. I like the fact that he does have course experience. I would have loved for him to make the cut. But overall, this is a week where we can't be too choosy. And I think given the price that we're getting, he's the first player I'm going to put into my build. Hence, getting into the first player, click in there. From that point, you could actually consider Kirk, who did have 2 bad starts in there, but top 12 has been someone to look at. But I do like the idea of getting to Victor Perez as well. 2 really good finish, RBC top, which classic, good stuff. But on top of that, he's a golfer that had a good stat. 11th best stat, terrible there. But again, this is kind of I don't mind the idea of playing something like Rico Hoy. Hoy is a top 50, finished 6th at this event live, ever good balls. We have seen him have some on some of the easier scoring events. There's a lot of work. 15th and 7th at the Corral. Overall, not a terrible play at this price tag. Lee Hodges is someone that I think we consider as well. He's made over the past only 1 made cut. Don't like that. But Lee Hodges is striking the key stat. 42nd in birdie better, 11th in balls, 12th and 16th approach. All very okay. Finished 9th at the RBC Canadian Open. He is someone that earlier on the was concerned about him, a little bit of a lack there, but was that if it was? He's someone that is a good stat. Interest at some. Then we have someone like Rio Hesitant as well, guys. He's someone that 1 for 1. Look at all the key metrics. Not a good special. I want to call that 35 or like we'll take that. 4 straight make cuts. 47th at the RBC, 6th at the Schwab Championship, 7th championship at the Myrtle Beach Classic, missed cut at PGA Cup, then a 35th at your Classic. We really care about 18th place finish at the RBC. He heritage. All good. The biggest concern is going to be the specials, not a. So that is there. But overall, I think we can look at it like we go back to 8th on the PGA. I actually think at this price, like he's someone probably play, but the player that I probably the fact that I do Putnam guys, 20th best resale, top 20, hasn't did miss a cut at unfortunate form has been pretty solid. 6th and 44th at the Schwab Champ, just been playing good enough. Adam made cut. It's not playing. This week, I could see him potential. Giving us a chance at a he's a golfer that can make some. If he gets hot with his putter, who knows? Guys, we feel like FanDuel and BetMGM are trying to do this bet. I think this is it. You look at BetMGM, they have him at 90. Okay, you look at Unibet, big line 90. That's that should not be happening at all. So again, if you're trying to check bets, I think he's been coming in. It's not a terrible stat fit. I don't think we need to do that, but I do think for DFS, just with those, have 8. Let's just actually go ahead and put Ben Grill pretty good about. So I have 8.5 left. Again, I kind of mentioned that it does feel a little bit like a dent, and so I do want to find a lower. Ricky Kesta is coming in off of a miscut at the RBC. Terrible. That has been a golf ball as well. I mentioned this a bunch, but him and Kevin on paper, Kevin was some very good golf. He's actually carrying us with lead at the Porter. Without that, first round lead, probably not. We don't need rehash. Let's pull him up. And so again, we're trying to chase a long shot bet, I think he is someone that could some sense. Best staff in we have seen a lot of that is in birdie. He's an accurate player himself up. Not the best specialist, but again, DFS purposes like that in there. Could toy around with a top 20, maybe the better. Because in the golfer that's top 20. Worth calling out though, not a good spot. But I will put him in. So now we have 3 left over. And then I think it's worth calling out Anton Rosner. Has been having a pretty good season. We haven't, and kind of got over good golf. Not playing, but 24th, 34th. We have caught him on some of that is. We pull up his profile, 16th best staff in the field, guys. See stats. 50th in birdie bread. So again, don't 36. Not a good specialist, but again, considering the price to get a golfer, then straight cuts on the PGA, I think I'm okay. We have this. So again, and then real quickly, guys, jumping into the low tier, I do think Stephen Fisk is here. Good tool driver, good ball strokes, can approach, straight make cuts. Do like the pricing. I think we can decent. So with that, guys, pretty much you have what we're looking at lineup process. We need to go any low of some, but in terms, I think I'd be more cow here. It's kind of up to you guys what to do there, but that's kind of the we have this. I think don't have a lot of that has, but we do have enough that we're going to end up in that's GPPY and cash. All right, guys, so we're just going to go ahead and do a general 5 custom model. What I'm going to do is reset the attributes. I'm just going to put in, if you guys want a little different, we're just going to look at that. So it optimizes for that. We're just going to run it so you guys, it's a little bit early to care about that, but let's look at some made cut per the 6. We have this. We're not going to be able to build that many that have at the highest percent. Jaeger, Fowler, Kirk, actually, I like this one a little bit better. Second, that's kind of the issue. Now, again, do you think a decent, maybe set the fin made cut, maybe like that is going to very much the players you can be on, but we're going to optimize the late cut per as well. And then we're raising the floor a little bit there by doing that. So we 8.7%. I don't mind the idea. Are we able to create 100? So we do like that. By doing it, we are getting to a lot of keys. And I'm actually curious as to how high we can, not that much. Let's see if we can optimize still based off of just out of curiosity. I don't think we'll be able to at least make it 150. Still are. That's surprising. And you know what? As I'm doing this video, I realized I should set a filter and just sort by here. And then I'm thinking about it. Well, I think I should add a favorite tab in. Maybe you're going through and you like your lineup and export that instead. You don't like your specific. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the. All right, so we're looking at this, guys. Again, give it 2 data points for Patrick Cantlay or Kawa there of what the top nips are. And here we go. Patrick Cantlay, Davis. A lot of the same thing saw from the custom. At least seen a lot of the same thing there. Lots of G. It's both a straightforward. We can obviously look at more Tuesdays. So if you guys are 9 to 5, not every last week factor on paper that's the case, but. That being said, if you guys are not a member, and if you guys can head on over, get access to all the tools of today for a low money. With that, you guys get access to all the fans as well as some of the proper prize. Underdog just came out with the prize, but optimize. Somewhat worse like and see star the X. But that's going to do it. Subscribe for. If you guys are interested in seeing the takes and also data point for fans, well, make sure to head on over to X. Right about 400 followers on that, which would be nice to be able to get 1,000 the next that account. So I do hate that we have to have kind of separate from the 9 to 5 main. X have a golf. That's exactly why I have this other the props. But that'll do all being with all your and as always.